One Piece, 8 Things Gold Roger would be doing if he were still alive. Gold Roger's death marked the start of a new era in One Piece. But if he were still alive, he'd be affecting the age in great ways. Gold Roger was the king of the pirates in One Piece and quite possibly one of the greatest men to exist in the entire story. As the first man to complete the circumnavigation of the entire Grand Line and reach Laugh Tale, Roger was an incredible pirate who was known to be a cut above the rest. After finding the One Piece and learning the entire history of the world, Roger turned himself into the Navy and was executed in Logue Town shortly after. His death marked the start of a new era. But if he were still alive, he would be affecting the age in great ways. 8. Gold Roger would lead the Roger Pirates for longer. Gold Roger disbanded the Roger Pirates after the completion of his journey. Realizing that he was born too early to complete the promise and fulfill Joy Boy's wish, Roger probably didn't see much of a point in continuing his journey. However, he would still love to lead his crew, given his love for adventure and the seas. If Roger wasn't dying from his illness, he would certainly have led the Roger Pirates for much longer, and the crew could have existed even today as one of the strongest in the story. 7. Roger would have been the undisputed strongest pirate to ever live. Gold Roger was an incredible pirate whose strength knew no bounds. In the entire series, his legacy as the strongest pirate ever lives on, with Whitebeard being the only one capable of matching him in battle. When Roger fought Whitebeard in the Grand Line, the two tied the battle despite fighting for days. However, Roger was already sick at this point. Had Roger never been sick, he would have become even stronger and declared on the seas as the undisputed strongest in the entire story, possibly surpassing even the likes of Whitebeard. 6. Roger would enjoy to have constant fights with Whitebeard. Gold Roger was an extremely powerful pirate only a few could take on in battle, and Whitebeard was definitely one of them. The two fought in an intense clash in the Grand Line which lasted for 3 days and ended in a draw. While Roger and Whitebeard fought quite often, they were great friends and shared an amazing relationship. If Roger had lived, the two would have fought countless times over the years, with each clash ringing across the Grand Line. 5. Gold Roger would fight the world government at some point. When Roger and his crew arrived on Laugh Tale, they found out the true history of the world, which means they also found out what happened during the 100-year void in the world. At the end of the Void Century, the world government came into existence and the ancient kingdom and its allies fell. Whitebeard mentioned that the revelation of the truth will one day lead to the Great War. If Roger were alive, he would certainly take part in the war and possibly even lead it himself. 4. Roger would go on countless adventures on the seas. Roger was a man who, much like Luffy, loved adventures. Even though he had already been everywhere and circumnavigated across the entire globe, he would still have loved to travel across the seas and party like pirates are supposed to. During Odin's time on Roger's ship, it was made very clear that Roger lived for adventure even when a terrible disease had struck him. What's more, new adventures such as a journey to the moon would very much interest Roger, and he would definitely go there if he lived. 3. Gold Roger would love to help the next Joy Boy. Upon reaching Laugh Tale, Roger realized that he wasn't the man to carry the burden on the people of the D on his back and that he wasn't meant to be the next Joy Boy. He hoped that his son would, one day, fulfill the promise in his stead, but every One Piece fan realizes that the next Joy Boy is likely going to be Luffy. Had Roger lived, he would certainly have helped Luffy on his path to becoming an incredible pirate. In doing so, Roger would ensure that his successor does what he couldn't and write a new chapter in history. 2. Roger would raise Portgas D. Ace give him his love. Roger was Portgas D. Ace's father and before dying, he entrusted him to his rival and friend, Monkey D. Garp. Ace grew up without the care of either of his parents and, knowing that his father was a hated criminal who had no part to play in his life, he believed that he owed him nothing and wasn't too fond of him. However, Roger certainly loved him a lot even when though he never met him. Roger named Ace after his prized Seijo O Wazamono sword and was proud of his son before he was even born. He would certainly have enjoyed raising Ace with love and care. 1. Roger would spend his days by Portgas D. Rouge's side. Roger might have been a pirate who was on the seas for most of the time, but he was very much a man in love. After the disbanding of his crew, he spent most of his time with Rouge in South Blue's Batarilla. Portgas D. Ace was conceived during this time and before he handed himself to the Navy, he had already discussed the names of his child with his lover. Had Roger lived, he would certainly have loved spending more time with Rouge and together with her, raise Ace into a splendid man.